Welcome to Skytech-Lens. Tonight we examine a sudden rift between two of the world's closest allies, the United States and Canada. The US has imposed steep tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, escalating a long-standing trade tension into a full-blown dispute. These metals are vital to countless industries, and the new tariffs, jumping from 25% to 50%, threaten $15 billion in annual cross-border trade. For decades, businesses relied on seamless trade, but this move forces companies to rethink their operations and futures. The administration claims it's about protecting American industry, but critics warn it could backfire, raising prices and hurting competitiveness. Over the next sections, we'll break down what these tariffs mean for you, your job, and your community. A tariff is essentially a tax that a government places on goods that are brought into a country from abroad. When a product crosses a border, the government may require the importer to pay a fee, which is calculated as a percentage of the product's value or as a fixed amount per item. This fee is what we call a tariff, and it's one of the oldest tools in international trade policy. The main idea behind tariffs is to make imported goods more expensive compared to products made locally. By raising the price of foreign items, tariffs encourage shoppers to choose domestic alternatives, supporting local businesses and industries. This can help protect jobs and keep money circulating within the country's economy. Tariffs can also serve another purpose, generating revenue for the government. Before income taxes existed, tariffs were a major source of funding for many countries, helping to pay for public services and infrastructure. However, while governments may benefit, the real impact of tariffs is often felt by everyday people and businesses. Companies that rely on imported materials or products may see their costs rise, forcing them to make tough decisions. They might have to absorb the extra expense, which can hurt profits, or pass those costs on to consumers in the form of higher prices. For example, when tariffs increase the price of essential materials like steel or aluminum, manufacturers in industries such as construction, automotive, and appliances face higher production costs. This ripple effect can be seen throughout the supply chain, impacting a wide range of products. As a result, consumers may notice that cars, kitchen appliances, and even everyday items like canned food become more expensive. These price hikes can affect household budgets and change the way people shop. Tariffs don't just impact one country. When one nation imposes tariffs, its trading partners often retaliate by introducing their own tariffs on goods from the first country. This back and forth can quickly escalate into a trade war, with both sides raising barriers and tensions mounting. The consequences can be severe: disrupted supply chains, shortages of certain products, and increased uncertainty for businesses trying to plan for the future. Both consumers and companies may find themselves paying more and facing fewer choices. In short, tariffs are a powerful economic tool that governments use to shape trade and protect their interests. But they come with significant risks and can have far-reaching effects on everyone involved, from factory workers to families at the grocery store. Understanding how tariffs work and why they spark such heated debates helps explain why trade disputes are often so complex and contentious in today's global economy. President Trump's America First policy is at the heart of the new tariffs, a move he says is essential to reviving U.S. manufacturing and protecting American jobs. Trump has long argued that the United States has been taken advantage of in global trade, and that previous administrations allowed American industries to decline by not standing up to unfair practices from other countries. By imposing tariffs, he hopes to send a strong message that the U.S. will no longer tolerate trade imbalances that harm its workers and economy. He argues that decades of unfair trade practices, including dumping cheap steel and aluminum into U.S. markets, have hurt American workers, leading to factory closures and job losses in communities across the country. Trump believes that by taking a tough stance, he can restore pride and prosperity to these hard-hit regions. According to the administration, strong tariffs are not just about economics. They're about rebuilding the nation's industrial base, which is seen as the backbone of American strength. Trump and his advisors claim that a robust manufacturing sector is vital for the country's long-term security and independence. The administration further justifies the move on national security grounds, insisting that domestic steel and aluminum production are critical for defense. They argue that relying on foreign metals could leave the U.S. vulnerable in times of crisis, making it imperative to support American producers. Some steelworkers and unions have welcomed the tariffs, seeing them as a chance to bring back jobs, reopen shuttered factories, and revitalize entire communities. For these workers, the tariffs represent hope for a better future and a return to economic stability. However, many manufacturers warn that the US-Canada supply chain is deeply integrated, with parts and materials crossing the border multiple times before becoming finished products. They caution that tariffs could disrupt this delicate balance, potentially hurting more American jobs than they save by making it harder and more expensive to produce goods. Critics of the policy argue that treating a close ally like Canada as a rival could backfire, raising costs for American businesses and consumers alike. They point out that higher prices on raw materials often lead to increased costs for everyday goods, putting additional strain on families and small businesses. The debate over tariffs has sparked intense discussion, pitting protectionism against the need to remain globally competitive. Both industry leaders and labor unions find themselves divided, with some supporting the move and others warning of unintended consequences. The stakes are high, with real and lasting consequences for workers, families, and communities across the country. As the nation grapples with these changes, the outcome of this policy will shape the future of American industry for years to come. Tariffs on steel and aluminum don't just hit factories, they ripple through the entire economy. Higher metal costs mean higher prices for cars, appliances, and even canned goods. Companies like Ford and Whirlpool face soaring production costs, which they pass on to consumers. Even your grocery bill can rise as food companies pay more for metal packaging. Inflation pressures mount, making everyday life more expensive for families. Major brands are already announcing price hikes, citing rising material costs. The intended boost for one industry can end up squeezing household budgets everywhere. Tariffs meant to help can quickly become a hidden tax on everyone. When we think about US-Canada trade, it's easy to picture finished goods crossing the border. But the reality is far more complex. These two countries are bound together by deeply integrated supply chains that keep North American industries running smoothly. Every day, raw materials and components flow back and forth, supporting jobs and businesses on both sides. Canada is America's top supplier of critical metals, providing nearly half of all imported aluminum, and a significant portion of the steel used in US manufacturing. These metals are the backbone of countless products, from cars and airplanes to bridges and skyscrapers. In Detroit, automakers depend on Canadian aluminum and steel to build engines, frames, and body panels. If tariffs are imposed, the cost of making cars could rise sharply, leading to higher prices for consumers and potential slowdowns in production lines that employ thousands of American workers. The construction industry in Texas and across the country also relies heavily on Canadian steel. Increased costs from tariffs could delay major infrastructure projects, impact housing affordability, and even slow down local economies that depend on steady building activity. In Seattle, aerospace giants like Boeing source specialized Canadian aluminum for aircraft manufacturing. These materials meet strict quality standards, and finding alternative suppliers isn't just expensive, it can take years to qualify new sources, risking delays in production and delivery. The ripple effects of tariffs could be felt across the nation, threatening jobs and competitiveness in industries ranging from automotive to aerospace, construction, and beyond. For decades, the US and Canada have built a partnership based on trust, efficiency, and shared prosperity. Their supply chains are so intertwined that disrupting them could have consequences far beyond either country's borders. If this partnership falters, global competitors in Asia and Europe could seize the opportunity, capturing market share and weakening North America's industrial base. The stakes are high. This is more than a simple trade dispute. It's about the future of American industry, jobs, and economic security. Canada has responded with outrage, calling the US tariffs unjustified and harmful. Ottawa is preparing targeted retaliatory tariffs, aiming to pressure key US industries and political districts. Past targets included bourbon, dairy, and motorcycles. This time, Canada may also leverage its supply of critical minerals for electric vehicles. The goals show that economic pain can flow both ways across the border. But retaliation isn't painless. Canadian consumers and businesses will also feel the impact. A prolonged trade war risks harming workers and industries on both sides. The integrated North American economy means disruption is costly for everyone. In trade wars, there are rarely clear winners. The tariffs have split American workers. Some steelworkers see them as a lifeline, hoping for revived mills and new jobs. But auto workers and unions like the UAW fear higher costs will lead to layoffs and plant closures. The U.S. steel industry employs about 140,000 people, while auto and related sectors employ nearly 1 million. Many more work in construction, aerospace, and manufacturing, all now facing higher material costs. Governors in industrial states are calling for action to protect jobs. The policy meant to help one group could endanger many more. The future for American labor is now more uncertain than ever. This US-Canada dispute is part of a larger global shift. Allies are questioning America's reliability, while rivals like China see new opportunities. Canada is accelerating trade deals with Europe and Asia, reducing its dependence on the US. Other countries, including Mexico and the EU, are watching closely and adjusting their own strategies. The use of national security as a trade justification worries partners and could set a risky precedent. China, the world's top steel producer, could benefit from North American disruptions. The tariffs may weaken Western alliances and open doors for America's competitors. What started as a bilateral dispute could reshape global trade for years to come. Trade policy isn't just politics, it hits home. Tariffs raise prices on everything from cars to groceries, shrinking your purchasing power. Jobs in many industries are at risk, even as some workers hope for gains. The economic tug-of-war pits one group of workers against another, fueling anxiety and uncertainty. Trade wars constrain even the closest alliances, making cooperation harder on global challenges. Understanding these connections helps us see how headlines translate into real-world consequences. In a global economy, every policy choice can shape our daily lives and our future. Thanks for watching. Subscribe the channel for more updates.